My guest is Age Nost. He is an author, and he was born and raised in Northern Europe and came to the United States of America to follow his dream. The political stuff was in the first half hour, folks, so don't expect anything out of me here, all right? Through his many experiences as a flight instructor, commercial pilot, business owner, paranormal researcher, publisher, student of the mind, radio and TV talk show host, and producer, he's done it all. And through direct mind-to-mind contact with the universal consciousness, he has learned many of the secrets of society and the universe. And I am really glad to hear that, because I want to know some of those secrets. This is now all yours for the taking, he says. Again, the title of his book is Spiritual Science, Higher Consciousness, Thinking and How to Access the Universal Consciousness. Well, I always love a conversation about the consciousness, because I want to know, where the heck is it? So let's go ahead and get my guest on the air here, and we can find that out, I think. All right, so here we go. And we're ringing.
Hello, August speaking.
Good evening. Is this Age Not? Is that the name?
Well, it's imported, so it's over here I call it Augie.
Augie. Okay, well, that's going to be easy then. Thank you.
Yeah, much easier.
All right, well, Augie, thank you so much for joining us. This is Michael Vera, and this is Late Night in the Midlands, and we are live, and I'm looking forward to talking with you tonight.
Oh, we are live already?
Yes, sir, we are. Well, I'd like to first welcome you to the show. I'm looking very, very forward to speaking with you tonight. And, well, I'd like to hear a little bit about your background and what led you to get so deep into the paranormal and the spiritual science.
Well, first let me ask you, how can you hear me here? Am I coming through clear and well?
It's a little choppy. If we can clear it up a little, that would be great.
Okay, I will turn a little bit. Maybe that's better. I am on the cell phone right now, so.
Oh, okay. Do you by any chance have Skype with a headset? No. Okay. Well, we'll deal with it then. But
right.
Okay. All right. So yeah, let's get a little bit of background, and we'll start there.
Well, I've always been interested in the things that people did not understand. I was probably somewhere around 12 years old. I saw something flying through the sky once that nobody could have. I told them about it, and they told me I was fantasizing, but I knew better than that. I built myself a little UFO detector.
A UFO detector?
Yeah, and the darn thing worked. At least I know it worked 3 times, because the bell went off and I saw something. And it's so simple that, a 10-year-old kid could make it. And I built it on the fact that when something is operating on an anti-gravity system, it puts weight into the gravitational field, and it creates ripples in the gravitational field. So I built the whole thing around a compass. When the ripples hit the compass needle turn a little bit, touches an electrical wire, set off a bell, and there goes, the UFO detector off. So it was simple.
That sounds interesting. I'm not laughing at it. I'm laughing because it sounds brilliant.
It kind of made sense to me at the time, so and it worked. And from there on, I grew up on a farm in Europe, in Northern Europe, in Norway, and of course, my tradition, I was going to be a farmer. There was no ifs and buts about that. I had to, but that just wasn't my thing. I went through agricultural college, and eventually, I figured it out that I needed to do something different. So we sold everything, and I went to the United States to become a pilot, a commercial pilot. Went through the training, got all the certificates that you can get, and became a flight instructor. And we started a flight school and an international air taxi.
their end is all screwed up. It's repeating over and over. They need a new line.
Oh, Michael, somebody's saying that they're listening on the computer, and it's repeating over and over again. Is that something that...
If it is, that's because they have to... they might have two windows open. No, there should be no problem with that. The player automatically plays on the website when you go to it.
Yeah, that's okay then. Well, it was just an alert that it was worth mentioning.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we've got an open live chat room right now, right. And so everyone's telling me it's good, I think. Right, everybody? Is it good? Yeah, it looks like we're doing all right.
I became a commercial pilot. I flew for 23 years, and then I started doing other things. I got involved in, other business ideas and adventures and paranormal research. I started looking into that an awful lot, and I learned a lot, and I'm still doing that, and I'm still learning a lot. So I don't know how much further I'm going to do with that, but I've written a couple of books. One of them is on totally far outside of the box, and the other one is on the universal success principles and how billionaires think. So it's more in business, but it also deals with the principles that billionaires operate by, which is very much in the spiritual or the paranormal arena. Some of them don't even know it, but they do these things anyway.
Well, yeah, not to try to sound gloomy and doomy here, but I've heard of some of these big billionaires, I guess, summoning in the evil spirit itself, and pretty much signing a deal with the devil, if you will.
Yeah, that's probably what maybe some of them do, but that portion of it I don't deal with, because I deal with the white side, so to speak.
I see. Well, good. That's the best one to deal with. So good. So tell me a little bit about your experience. You say that you actually had a download of universal information, and it's like a download to your mind. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, let's see. This one's going to be a little tough to explain, but I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
I've been meditating for about 50 years, and a lot of things, a lot of advantages can come out of that, both health benefits and spiritual and mind-altering, opening benefits can come from it. I was sitting in meditation one evening, and I suddenly had this, my eyes were closed, but it suddenly got very bright, and I started seeing these flashes of all kinds of things that came across. And it took about somewhere between 3 to 5 seconds. And what I'm about to say, it really is hard to explain because there is no language available to explain it, but I had much of the universe was explained in concept and detail. And I saw things that, if I followed up timelines, I could see inventions, I could see scenarios of things that would happen, I could see things that had happened, because, outside of the physical, in the higher vibration, there really is no time. There's only past, present, and future. It's right there now. Mm-hmm. And it's sitting there. And when I got done with this, I sat there and thought about it, and I thought, wow, I could never write about this. But I grabbed a piece of a pad and a pencil, and I started writing, and I wrote for about 3 days, plus or minus things that I had to do in the meantime. And when I was done, I read it, and now I was sure I couldn't write about it, because this was so far out that I don't think anybody would believe me. So I talked to a kind of level-headed fellow, and I told him about it, and he said, show it to me. And I showed it to him, and he said, no. He said, this makes perfect sense. Asked me if I did any quantum physics, and I told him, no, not really. I heard about it, but he told me to go and get a book. The book was called The Self-Aware Universe, and it's It's on the bookshelf. People can find it. And I read that book, and by God, there was a lot of the things that I have seen. That was explained. Now it's physics behind it, explaining what I saw. They weren't quite as detailed in the book, but now I knew I could actually write about this. So I started writing and developing this book that now I'm talking about tonight.
I see. Well, very interesting. Now, you talk about the consciousness, and I have to ask, in your opinion, based on your research, or even, just your opinion, if that's it, consciousness, where is it, and what is it?
Yeah, that is one of the things that science and teachers and professors have been arguing about for a long time. And in fact, they've been arguing that there is no such thing as consciousness. It's all in the brain. The brain develops everything. But beyond consciousness, there is something called mind. Let's just talk a little bit about the mind first.
Okay.
It encompasses consciousness. And some of the things I might be talking about tonight may be a little hard to swallow, but of course, unless you've studied a little quantum physics, then it makes perfect sense. And in the book, I make it so simple that a 10-year-old kid could understand this. And of course, maybe it's easier to understand because they're a 10-year-old kid. They haven't been, brainwashed into thinking in all the restrictions that we have. Many of us by now have figured out that the universe is not quite the way it looks. Yeah. Let me give you something to think about.
Okay.
Let's first set the stage, so the easier to understand the question I'm going to ask you at the end of it. Science has found that matter and energy cannot be created from nothing. We know that. Then again, there are these really sharp people on this planet, like Stephen Hawking out of Cambridge University in England, and most theoretical physicists now, they are saying that their equations on the blackboard prove this whole universe was created from nothing. Now, if this whole universe is created from nothing, and you are in this universe created from nothing, what are you?
Nothing. That's horrible. So is that what we are?
Yeah, I was pausing on purpose there because I just wanted you to think.
Well, I thought about it really quick. Like, yeah, so we'd be nothing. So is it like the human condition to think that we're more important than maybe we are?
Nothing. Yeah, and of course, what we say nothing doesn't mean nothing physical. Because obviously there is something. We see something around us. We, when you're running through a field and hit a stone that you don't see, your toe hurt. And you see and experience stuff, so there's got to be something, right? Yep. Well, quantum mechanics also tells that we live in a mind-created universe because there's only one thing that can do that. And that is mind-created thought. The mind creates the perception of something that we see, and quantum physics is backing me up in this. So then, what is the mind? What is it? Maybe it is not quite in the brain. Well, the closest way I can compare it to something is that the brain is the hardware. The mind is the software which is laid on top of the hardware, interacts with the hardware. And a very small portion of the mind is operating through the brain. But the mind is not in the brain. In fact, we were never taught how to use the mind. The only thing we were taught how to use is a small portion of our brain. It's a phenomenal tool, but we were never taught how to use it. That's a shame.
I see. So the mind then would really be the consciousness's brain?
Yes, the mind is what creates consciousness, which operates the brain.
That makes total sense to me. It really does.
And You remember back in school when the teacher told you, read this chapter and memorize it because tomorrow we're going to have a test on it. Oh, God, I hated that.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure I could remember all of it. We remember absolutely everything we see, hear, feel, smell, and what we experience. It's the recall process that is all screwed up because we were never taught how to remember. The teachers didn't know how because that's why they couldn't teach you. Let's take it a step further. If we are in a mind-created universe, what is in your mind the most? Mind created now. And what you believe consciously and subconsciously the most and the strongest, that is what we will have in our mind, in our life. That's where positive thinking comes in.
That would pretty much make you the master of your own universe then, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. You create your own life. I have one analogy here, and it's a good one. If it took Mr. Average American or average from anywhere, it could be an accountant, a physician, a construction worker, or a housewife, don't make any difference. Put that person in the left seat of a Boeing 747 in the cockpit and tell them, let's go flying. Then they would be spending at least 20 minutes before they even found the electrical master switch. Now, if we gave that person a year's worth of training, got him back in the left seat, and say, let's go flying, that person could take us flying. Same thing with your mind. You were never taught how to use it. But if we had some training on how to operate and use that mind, there is really no limitations to what we can do, and that is what I'm doing in this book. I'm teaching people how to operate and use that mind and use the facilities that we have already in the mind, but we were never taught how to use.
And what would you say, what are we here for? Is it the lesson? Everybody says it's the lesson. It kind of makes sense, but is that it? Is it for the lesson?
It is to the mind, and we can call it anything. We could call it spark of life. We can call it soul. We can call it spirit. It comes through the mind. To the mind, it is a game. It feeds on experiences. It don't make any difference if there are so-called good or bad experiences. It feeds on it and enjoys it. So these experiences we are having creates learning experience, which is spark of life. It learns from and it grows both spiritually and mentally. Because there really is nothing physical. That is just a tool that this higher mind is using in order to walk around and get physical experiences and learning experiences in.
Uh-huh. Interesting. So then the soul, would you say, people who say their soul, would they be talking about this consciousness? Is that what the soul is?
The soul what it is using is consciousness. Consciousness is a part of the soul as one, because at that level there is no separation. It is all one. In fact, that's why some psychics are so much better than others, because we are all one. Some of them are actually able to feel the other person and feel what they're thinking and knowing and doing, and they can speak of it. So there aren't that many good ones, but there are a few.
Yeah, there certainly are. Now, what about spiritual healing? What exactly is spiritual healing? And does this have to do with past lives at all?
It can have, because at that level of spirituality, there really is no past. There is past, present, and future is sitting in this soup of creation where everything past, present, and future is, so that we can draw on all those three concepts. So let's say that we have a problem right now. Let's say that we got a bad knee, we wore out the cartilage, and we're just shocked. We're looking at either being a cripple or we get a new what's it called, knee replacement. Well, there is some things we can do. And that goes back to the mind again. What we believe strongly enough can have physical effects. And there is a lot of stories and proven stories of people that have all the way from hangnails, well, I'm joking about that, but small things, up to including cancers where they have cured themselves by visualizing the cancer being smaller and smaller and good red tissue instead of that off-colored cancerous cells. So if it works at that level, it could work at any level. The body have a way to replenish itself if it has the raw material.
And how come we've gotten away from that? How come we're not in touch with that anymore? Because it seems like if it's almost like a bad joke. It's like if we only knew this, because think of how many people might go to a doctor for a diagnosis for something, and the whole way there they're thinking, I know I got it. I know it's I have to have it. Watch. And so they're actually maybe putting that on themselves, but they wouldn't if they knew better.
Yeah, and there are forces beyond us that most people don't know about, and that is the medical machine. It is money driven.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah, if you look at a hospital would be a place of healing, right? No, it isn't. It's a corporation. What do corporations have loyalty to first? They have loyalty to the stockholders. If they found a cure for cancer, what in the world would happen to all the people that worked in the cancer industry? Look back into the 1950s when they found the cure for polio. 100,000 nurses lost their jobs, the ones that was working in the sanitariums. They're not going to make that mistake again.
Oh, and they're not making that mistake again.
Not. So there are so many, I'm using the word cure here, with tongue-in-cheek, because I'm not a doctor and I cannot say that something, actually is a cure, because I think it's even illegal these days.
Unfortunately, it is.
Yeah, because there's a lot of medical research showing exactly how I have a doctor on my Facebook page that make a speech, and he says all cancers can be cured in a matter of just weeks.
Oh, yeah, 2 to 16 weeks.
There you go. You must have seen the same one.
Dr. Leonard Coldwell.
There you go.
Oh yeah, and he's an awesome guy. I know him very well, and he's not pulling anybody's legs. I mean, this is real. As a matter of fact, I've got a host on this network who cured his own cancer with one of the remedies. As a matter of fact, my wife and I cured her father just recently of bladder cancer, and I'll say it. They want to come pick me up. I'll put the evidence out there for everyone to see, and they can explain why they're lying to everybody, because cancer is curable.
Yeah, it is very much so. Not just cancers. There is every disease that we possibly can get. There is a remedy for it naturally. All the pharmaceuticals are doing is taking away the symptoms and leave the cause for the symptoms in place, so they got repeat business.
Yeah. Well, it's what I mean, compared to a $20 remedy for cancer, maybe a 20, in some cases, maybe a couple $100. Even if it was $500 for hemp oil or whatever you do, it's still just a chump change compared to what they're getting for somebody who's going in there for 8 months for all these treatments, radiation and chemotherapy. That actually is what people die from. They don't die from the cancer. They die from the treatment.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people know that, so we don't really have to dwell that much on it. But all they have to go through the internet, and my Facebook page and probably yours will have stuff like that on there, so they can see it and they can read it themselves. And that's probably as far as I think we need to go with it.
I would agree. So, this consciousness basically would account for the soul. Then I mean, then it is kind of the same thing, right? I mean, because I guess right because
the spark of life is what I call it, the soul, which is an eternal, intelligent energy that has it is a part of the larger mind as one, which is the universal consciousness. And it operates, it's given, while it is in physical existence, it's given a perceived individuality. So it can experience linear time. And this perceived linear time and the brain and the mind together here creates stuff so it can get all these experiences. But it all traces back to the mind.
I see.
And the spark of life.
Would you say that it's another, like the spiritual realm? I mean, ghost newsflash for some people who might just be tuning in, but the truth is ghosts are real. It's a real phenomenon. Spirits, that kind of thing, it's real. Is this another dimension? Is that where they are? Is that what it is?
Yes, it actually is another dimensional existence. It's a higher vibratory existence where they are able to observe us much easier than we are able to observe them, because they are at a higher level of vibration at that point where they have more capability. We are more locked in by this physical, the negative subconscious mind programs that put all these restrictions on us. Like one of them, ghosts, there's no such thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe there is, but I don't really want to believe it because it'll scare the crap out of me. And all these things are bouncing around in your subconscious mind, and it holds you back from being able to see into that reality. Now, when it comes to ghosts, that is the lower astral world. And in the lower astral world, there's still something called time, because they get trapped in it sometimes. And these spirits, they may not even know they're dead. They are walking around wondering, why in the world is everybody ignoring me, and they feel horrible. So it may not necessarily be a good experience, because the ones that get caught like that are always the ones that is very much attached to the physical of what they have and who they have with them and what they are and things like that. If you're very attached to the physical, you could get caught there unless that you wise up to the point that you shouldn't hang around in that reality anymore. You will have the choice several times to leave that and go to the higher vibrations through the tunnel and into the light and so on.
And Augie, I myself, I had an encounter back in 2004 where I had my mother's spirit had come back and made a visit with me. And, I've never had anything like that outside of that incident. I mean, as far as a good experience like that, I've been in a haunted apartment before, but that's another story. But she seemed happy. And so, but then we hear of stories of others who are not so happy. Matter of fact, they're downright miserable, and they're trying to make whoever's living in those quarters miserable. So I wonder why it's so different like that.
That all depends on the mind of the person. I think your mom was probably a good person that was at peace with herself and at peace with her physical existence. And she did not have much more attraction to the physical, that have so much that it would hold her back. And of course, in that mind, there are other perceived realities, like maybe her mom that came and met her and took her away. So there are other influences on the other side that will help you. But if you ignore these influences and the ones that will come and help you because you are too attached to something physical, then you can get trapped.
Yeah.
So it all depends on where the mind are at the time. And, we hear about hell. Well, hell, there is no such thing. But there are existences that is created in the mind of the people that totally believe in hell. Let's say they murdered someone in the past, and because of that, they are totally convinced they're going to go to hell. Well, they will probably end up in a place which kind of looks like that until they wise up to the point that they don't need to be there. All they have to do is to think themselves and believe themselves out of there, and then they go to the higher vibrations.
I was going to say, yeah, they kind of decorate their own apartment. So to speak. Yeah, I thought that too. I said, I bet that you could make your own hell. If you strongly believe on your deathbed that you're bad and you're going to go to hell, and that's why you're afraid because you're dying, you're probably, for at least a little while, you're going to be in whatever you've created with your mind.
You could very well be. In fact, here's a little novelty for you. Do you know how you can take pictures of ghosts just about every time?
Well, I don't know about me. Some people do.
There was a guy over in France, and I think it was in the late 60s. I read about it while I was still back in Europe. He took pictures of ghosts, newly departed people, and he had pictures of them afterwards. And what he did, he took a regular camera, walked out to the graveyard, and put a Tesla coil next to the right on top of where the person was buried. Turned the Tesla coil on and turned it up slowly, and then he went about 20 feet away and he took pictures of the grave. Very often he saw that departed person standing next to it, or he was sitting on the ground next to it, half in the ground, half out of the ground. It was all kinds of weird pictures like that, and the people that he showed this to in this little country town in France, they almost lynched him. They chased him out of town. They thought he was working with the devil.
Yeah, I could see where that would happen. Now, that's kind of spooky to me because I really hope that when I pass away, I'm not hanging around at my gravesite.
Yeah, but some of them did, and
and if I do, I hope I can scare people.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, that's interesting because I've had psychics tell me that once you go to the other side, now some say different things, but I've had some of the good ones have told me that when you go to the other side, you don't really care about the things you cared about before, and yeah, you still care about the people you love. And so on. And I know that for a fact because my mom came back for me. And so I have that personal experience that can confirm that. But that, most people aren't dwelling on all these things. Once you go to the other side, you realize you're free and da-da-da. But then there's those who just don't want to leave what they have. And of course, there's the fear factor too that keeps some people stuck here, right?
Yeah. Well, we're embedded with fear from the establishment to the point where they really, for a lot of people, that's all it is, and because they are easy to control.
Well, yeah, that's very true. And that's why it's important to get a grip on your mind. Now, tell me a little bit about time traveling. I saw that in one of the things you talk about, and I thought, well, great. Are we talking about real physical time travel?
Probably both.
Oh.
There are stories, and there are verified stories of things that have happened that cannot be explained, and the only explanation that is possible would be time travel. Like this, there was a guy in New York, and this was written up in a New York newspaper. He suddenly, in a flash of light, he showed up in the middle of the street, and this was in the probably late 30s, early 30s. He showed up in the middle of the street, and he was standing there in old clothing, and a car ran over him and killed him. Well, he just showed up there in a flash of light, so, the car, I guess, didn't have time to stop. But what they found on, he was dressed like somebody back in the, about 180, 200 years ago. And he had a letter in his pocket from somebody in Europe writing to a guy in the United States. And the police there, they started looking at this, and they investigated this guy that this letter was written to. And he was in one of the southern states this guy is supposed to have lived. And they went into the record and they found out that that guy had disappeared. Nobody knew what happened to him.
Oh, I strongly believe that there is time travel technology and that it's being used. And I think that if we can prove that we can really explain a lot of these things that some people find unexplainable. I just think that these people were able to go back and change and alter things and really put control in their lap, amongst other things. So, yeah. That makes sense. So this guy had a letter in his pocket that really confirmed.
Yeah. And since you said that, I'm going to go a little further than I thought, because in 2003, BBC Television came over to the United States and did a TV documentary with Michio Kaku and Green and several other theoretical physicists and myself. And this TV documentary was on time travel. And is it possible? And on that, you can, you can look it up when you get off the air. You can go, this TV documentary is called Time Trip. Mm. And on this TV documentary, I'm demonstrating a small electronic device that I've had some very strange experiences with. Now, what I did on there, I showed them how to use it and so on. And of course, I was sitting in a hotel room in New Orleans, and it was full of people with cameras and all kinds of stuff. So nothing happened there because there was too many distractions. But there are things that can be used as a mind-matter interface. That little time travel device, when I first started experimenting with it, I couldn't get anything to work until I started manipulating my brainwave patterns. I brought them down to about 7, and I found later that 7.4 is a magic number, seems like, where things start happening. Mm-hmm. That's right at the bottom of the alpha range of brainwave patterns. And I've seen some things that did not happen. And I've predicted some things that actually did not happen. And I couldn't understand why, because I saw it. And later I understand what you just said a little while ago. We can go back and change the direction from the past into the future. And what happened in those things that I saw is that we were doing... I was hosting and producing 2 TV shows in Tucson, Arizona, and we got very political, and we got very involved in the all the garbage and stuff that happens in government and so on. And my mind was in a negative mode. I was looking for the negative to expose it. And since that was in my mind, that is what I saw, because if I had continued on that path, these things probably would have happened. But then again, other things changed my thinking, and I started to look at it different. I looked at possibilities more than locked in negative things. And I started creating a different future, so it didn't happen, some of those things that I saw. And like you just said, this could make sense, because we can go back, not change the past so much, but we are creating a new alternate future from a position in the past where we make a decision, because we then make a different decision, and that creates a new future. That makes sense?
It sure does. It absolutely does. There's some interesting stuff here, Augie. We got to take a break, though. So we'll do that. We'll take the break. We'll come back, talk some more. We'll take calls if anybody wants to get in on the conversation. The number is on our website at latenightinthemidlands.com. So hang on with us a minute, Augie. We're going to take this break, and then we'll come back and talk some more. Guest Augie. And folks, we'll take questions or comments. If you got something you want to share, you can come on, give us a call. The number is 803-392-4LNM. That's 4566. and the number is on our website. You can also call us, Skype to Skype. The Skype ID is LNM Radio. And my guest is going to be with me for a little bit longer, so here's your chance. Call in. And if you're in the South, call in before the phone lines are below water here. Augie, we are back, and so, all right, so universal consciousness. What is that? What is universal consciousness?
The universal consciousness is all knowledge and intelligent energy there is. Oh. It has all of what is created in the past, present, and future in physical, and all what is created on all other dimensional existences, all the way up through, I show about 12. Maybe not quite there. I think I kind of assumed that it was 12, because by the time it got into higher dimensional existences, it kind of floated together for me. I wasn't able to separate it. But it is there, and that's all knowledge there is, and some people will call that God. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm. I had a guest on the other night who talked about microbial life, and how there is, if we could see, if our eyeballs were like telescopes, or not telescopes, but microscopes, and we could see our bodies like that, we would see like billions of living organisms that make us up, and it's like all this life living within its creator, its host, which would be us. So I kind of look at us that way, like in the universe, like that universe is that body, that God body, and that all the life is within it. So when people say, well, where's God? Who's God? I think that, it's all God. We're God. It's all, everything. It's all in one. We're inside of it. Not that we're God, but you know what I mean?
That's right. And on my Facebook page, I have a picture of myself as a Kirlian photo where I can see the aura around the body. It's a huge, big white aura with a few little bit of green in it, which represents some health and so on. So there is another body outside of the physical that can be seen. In fact, if you train your eyes for it, you can see it. And beyond that, there's a white body that is kind of a little fuzzy in the edges. That's the astral vehicle. And you heard about the astral body. That's, you can separate the astral body from the physical body, and you can travel with it. You're still connected to the physical existence with something they call the silvery cord and so on. I'm sure you heard about this. And there are several bodies up there. All of these lower vibratory bodies will eventually go away. Some people call it dying, even though there's nothing that dies, but they go away. The physical body will decay and go away. The astral body will die and decay, and then the other bodies will. But there's one body that will never die, and that is that spark of life, which is not really a body. It's more like an intelligence. It is just bright white light that it is expressed as. And they form from memory, the spark of life, take on the existence of other bodies that it may have had for the purpose of communication. Let's say that the spirit wants to communicate with me, and then it takes on a body of somebody to be able to communicate better with me, so I understand better. They have the capability of doing that, even though they don't do it a lot, but it can happen. When your mom came and visited you, she took on the physical body that she once had in order to communicate better with you, so you would understand who she was, and so you could relate more to it.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, she did. And what's more is she took she looked like she was about 30 years old again, and when she died she was 64. So
on any age or any variation of the self that they feel most comfortable with.
Well, she was definitely comfortable. She was all there except for feet. There were no feet, just kind of levitating above ground. I mean, that's really strange. But, I am so glad I had the experience because, I've had a close call with death. And you know what? I was never scared. And I think that's why, because I know that when I get to the other side, I'm going to be peeking around corners and looking for a minute and thinking, all right, so I'm here now. But I think all in all, I think we get pretty comfortable over there quickly as long as we understand that, I think it's the people who have so much doubt in their mind, or they believe what they've been, what's been branded into their minds, that have the difficulty when they get to the other side. I think these are the people that we call ghosts, maybe.
Yeah, it is. And may I make a quick comment? We were talking about time travel before the break. In the back of the book, I explain how to do it. There's a mind sequence of things that you can actually engage in coming through meditation, where you can get to go back or forward and have a look at things. And this I've heard from several people that say, yeah, this works actually. First time you read through the book, probably you just ignore it, but because the book is written on several levels of consciousness, so the second and the third time you will understand more, and then you're probably more apt to be able to go do this, but you actually can do this. Most people can just go and experiment and have these experiences, and they're incredible.
They are. They're absolutely incredible. Agi, let me give you the floor, and anything that you'd like to get out, and please tell people where they can get your book. Anything that you want to get out of there, go ahead, take your time, and pour it out. Okay.
The book is called Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness. And there's a website where they can go and read about what all the subjects are in it, and that is www, of course, and then spiritual-sciences.net. That is spiritual-sciences.net. And what I'm telling people on the radio shows that I'm doing, if you read the book 3 times, first of all, your life will never be the same, because you're going to learn how to tap into that universal consciousness for both knowledge, wisdom, and resources. You start pulling things back there that you're matching vibration with, and good things start falling out of trees onto your path, pretty much. And besides that, when you're ready the 3rd time, you're ready for stage 2, and then if you call me, we'll have a long talk, and then we can see if you want to go to the next stage, because there is another stage where you can experience a lot more than what you're experiencing today.
I see. Well, all right. Well, we've got you linked up over on the website, and I do appreciate you being here tonight. And I look forward to talking to you again in the near future. We'll have to do this again.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much. All right, folks. There he goes. That was Agi. We've got him linked up over on the website, LateNightInTheMidlands.com, so you can go check them out there. We'll have to get them back for a full show at some point. Try to get a little bit of a more clearer line, and I think that we could probably really get moving on these topics. But folks, for me, it's I enjoy it, but and I try. But if the sound's not clear enough, it is hard. You might hear I've got headphones strapped to my head right here. And while I can hear, I mean, it's sometimes a strain to follow the conversation when it's broken up. It's a cell phone thing, and he's a great guest. We've got to get him back, but we've got to do it on a clearer line next time. So, but hey, he is linked up on the website. He's got some fabulous information that you can go check out on his site. I know past guest of ours, Mr. Reichenthal, has interviewed him, and pretty good show. So we just weren't getting a really good connection. Is it the cell phone? Probably. So we're going to switch things over here. I want to talk about a few different things. We'll certainly talk about the shooting. We'll probably talk about the paranormal a little bit. But I want to talk about this weather, too. Holy cow. I mean, I don't know. Right now I have a big old TV that I've got in the corner here of my studio. And so it's not watching me, I'm watching it. And I've got the Weather Channel on. And I'm watching these waves, and I'm watching what's going on in Charleston. And looking out the window here and seeing the rain just constantly coming down. I'm just curious as to what's in store. I have never, once in Rochester, back in 2006, it was December, and we had a full month of upper 60s that year in December, which was nuts. Never did that happen. Well, after this huge snowfall, so all this snow melted, and then it rained for like 2 or 3 days in a row. I had a basement apartment, and the water got right up near my window, and it stopped finally. So I came real close. At this point, I would not want to be involved in any flood. I've got a lot more to lose now than I did then. So, hopefully that's not the case here. A lot of things go by Columbia. We'll see huge systems coming our way, and they break up and go around us. This time, not so much. It looks like two big systems have come together and are forming what's happening here now. But this has been going on. It's like this thing, it's like a hover storm just sitting there. And I know some people will say HAARP. I don't know about all that. But maybe Ira does. So we're going to bring Ira on with us next. Again, if you want to call in, lines are open. So we're going to, let's try this. Let's do some open lines. Anybody wants to call in about anything you want to talk about? We're here for you on this Friday night. Ira, welcome. How are you, my friend?
Doing well. How's my sound for you?
Oh, crisp, clear. Crisp and clear, as it always is.
Awesome.
Hey, he's a great guest, and I did, I heard him. It's just, it's tough, guys.
A little difficult, yeah.
Yeah.
I had some problems, and I'm a very close listener. So.
And here's the other half of it, then you'll get people who subscribe and say, okay, I'm paying for what? I can't hear it. So it has to be good. You can't ask people to subscribe and become a late nighter, and then we try, though. I mean, sometimes it happens. But anyways, yeah. Ira, we've got a hell of a system over here. It's historic. I don't have enough wood, or I'd build the ark.
I know. We went through similar at the beginning of summer here in our location here in Indiana. We had 21 days of rain straight. Now, we didn't get like real steady, heavy rains that whole time, but it was just steady rain that whole time. So not like real downpour kind of thing. I knew you were talking that they were predicting almost a foot of rain over this weekend alone.
Yeah,
right?
You remember last week I complained to you and says, man, I went and took my walk in the rain because I had 2 days straight where I couldn't because it was just constantly raining.
Right.
And I don't like getting in the rain. There's the Fukushima thing, I try to stay out of the rain. The rain's toxic. What goes up is coming down in the rain.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So, and I'm not paranoid, and I don't wear a tinfoil hat, but I don't try to chance fate either. So
it's just the reality we live in now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyways, I took the walk in that rain. That was 3 days. That was, I think, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday. And since that Thursday, it has done nothing but rain. Now they're saying the rains are picking up. They're getting heavier. The ground's already a sponge, and I mean a sponge. So, I don't know. Who knows? Let's get enough rain, historic rain. Maybe we'll wind up with a historic earthquake. I still say that heavy rains, waters like that, they lubricate these.
I think they absolutely do, and I'm actually getting rather convinced that what we're seeing actually is more of an experiment to see what ends up happening along those lines.
Well, it could be, and I agree with Dan Winnington when he says that the moisture is being pulled from the west and being used on the east. I believe it. I really do. Now, I'm not good like some of these people. They'll show these videos with these harp rings and stuff. I'm not an expert in that, so I don't know what I'm looking at. So
actually, my wife Jolene, she's one that does a lot of investigating into that, and she's seen a lot of this going on with this particular hurricane, for instance.
Well, I would need somebody to show me. I would need somebody to point out what I'm supposed to be seeing, and then prove to me how that's coming from where they say it's coming from. That's what I need.
Yep.
And so, and me, I don't know. I've had people, I watch the videos and stuff, and I say, okay, they're rings, but how do we know exactly what it's coming from? Is it harp? Is it from space? Is it
what it seems like it is actually from what I've been able to glean in my own investigations is that it's actually coming from these high-powered NEXRAD radar stations, and that basically what they're doing is when they're pinging out this radar system, out into the atmosphere, it's basically ionizing the atmosphere a lot more, and it's causing essentially, with a storm, what a storm does, like when you have a rainstorm happening or a thunderstorm or something like that, the reason why you're seeing that is because there is an imbalance in the atmosphere at that particular location at that time. So in order to get the balance back to the proper way, nature causes a storm to happen there to get rid of the imbalance, such as the over-ionization of the atmosphere or over-dustification of the atmosphere and that sort of thing. Okay, so it will cause a storm to create there. And so with these NEXRAD radar system stations, what they're doing actually is they're sending out ionizing radiation to track where the weather is, but they don't. I don't know, maybe if they don't realize or if they just don't care that the thing that they're using to ping whether or not weather is there is actually causing an imbalance to happen and causes the weather to occur there. Wow. So a lot of times what will end up happening actually is these storm systems, there might be a storm system that formed like somewhere to the west of you, and the local station near you is sending out these high-powered signals trying to gather as much of the data as they can get from that storm, and by turning that thing up, they are actually basically acting like a magnet to that storm, and it's causing it to actually come and form a deeper storm there in that location.
Yeah, okay, but now my question would be, is the East Coast being attacked? Is that what I mean? I haven't really looked into this. I've been kind of focusing on my work today, right? And really, I've had the Weather Channel. I've been afraid to even look at the fake news because I don't want to hear any of their garbage today. I just wanted to keep it out of. I don't want to hear Obama say we must get rid of the guns, and I don't want to hear Sean Hannity or licking people's boots and all that stuff. So
right. Is it an intentional attack? I don't think so. I mean, not from what I've been able to see, I don't think so, but I think that it's more of a matter of like a confluence of events that are going on, and it's sort of like an accidental exposure. Well, my next kind of like being accidentally exposed to something, toxic that's nearby you or something like that,
well, My next question was going to be then why? What are they doing it for? What are they after? But yeah, I mean, they're using the word historic. I mean, I don't know. Should I take that serious? I kind of do.
I would, because I mean, when they say historic, what they're meaning is according to the data that they have.
Never happened
the time
before.
That they've been tracking, basically.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think the last time that word historic was used with rains and floods was back when Noah built his ark, right?
Very well could be. I mean, yeah, we're seeing if you look on the different weather tracking apps or websites that are out there. For instance, we use Intellicast here at our house, just as an example. Great website. if you look on there, you'll see actually that there is just a massive confluence of storms that are occurring right there in your area. I'm actually surprised that you're on the air tonight because of how much of the
I
weather
am
you're
too.
getting there.
We've had lights flicker. We've had, I've heard, so we got a lot of trees around us, and I've heard, what I'm a little also concerned about is the ground's getting so wet. We got a lot of pine trees too around us, and some of them aren't in very good shape. And I worry a little bit. The ground gets soft enough. These things are top heavy. They'll
tip right over. I have seen that happen quite a few times up here.
Yeah, so I've been keeping my ears peeled. I'm listening for things, and I hear a lot of things falling around me. It's just, so it's been wet, man. Geez, I hope no sinkholes open up. I think about that too.
Oh yeah, most definitely. The sinkhole thing alone, it always makes me a little cautious because I know, like, in the area we live, we have a lot of those underground tunnel systems here. We've heard them doing the blasting and the digging here for many years now. I know that we have a FEMA camp that's just right down the road from us, basically. So, we know that there are a lot of tunnel systems that are here. When we got those big rains that came through here, we actually had quite a bit of sinkhole activity here in our town. It wasn't like really huge or anything. There wasn't like houses that were getting swallowed up or anything along those lines, but we did have some of them open up here. So it's definitely a concern. I would have quite a bit of paranoia if I was in the same spot.
Well, yeah, and they says that there is possibility a percentage of tornadoes could boost. I'll tell you this, it was yesterday, early in the day, if I got this right, I tell you, days go by quick, but it was muggier than muggy. It felt like you were in the middle of the Amazon or something. And then by probably a few hours before showtime, it cooled off quick. And now it's, I don't know, it feels pretty cold out there, but it's like in the 50s. And for me now, that's cold. Back in my Rochester days, that was yeehaw. But so the temperature dropped quick. It's been going back and forth, as a matter of fact. It's been hot, it's cold, it's hot, it's cold. This is like every couple days it's changing around, and the rains just kept coming. So
I was a tornado chaser for a few years, and I know from experience that is exactly the kind of weather you want to look for to have tornadoes get formed.
Yeah, well, if I had to worry about anything, my biggest worry would be sinkholes, but I'm glad we're not in Florida right now, because that's like
Florida would be a nightmare.
Yeah, that's the master of sinkholes. But then, hey, here we are in Carolina. It can happen here too. Why not? It's not much different than Florida. It just does, we get a couple cooler months than they do.
The one thing about South Carolina, I think, that is a little bit of an advantage as opposed to Florida is that there is like more of a rocky baseline with you guys. You have it's sort of a bedrock that's in a shallower spot than anywhere near Florida would have. So, because of that, you might have a little bit of an advantage of not having as much of a sinkhole activity just because there's more rock. On a shallower basis.
Where our disadvantage comes is that there's a huge fault that goes through. South Carolina. It goes through Charleston, and it goes through an area of Columbia. It's at least along the border somewhere. So if that went, it'd be talk about dancing. We'd be dancing.
There are definitely some serious fracture lines there in South Carolina. Yeah,
we've got Ruscala with us. He's
on
the
Ruscala.
line. Hey, Ruscala, how are you?
Hello, Michael. Hello, Ira. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to get on here with you guys. I'm calling you from South Florida, the sinkhole capital of America.
Are you building the ark? Are you the one?
We really have had some nice weather so far. It hasn't affected us like it has affected you up there so far. The key words are so far. It's been relatively, we've seen, thunderstorms in the afternoon, but that's not so much out of the norm for us. It heats up pretty quick, and usually around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, there are scattered areas that have sometimes some very serious thunderstorms. We had a very serious thunderstorm a couple of days ago, but that's typical for us for this time of year.
Yeah, well, here I'm sick of the rain. I am. I'm sick and tired of. I'm telling you, South Carolina, it gets extremes, extreme heat, extreme cold, which because when you're in 90-degree weather for several months and all of a sudden somebody turns the heater off, it's pretty shocking. And extreme weather. I mean I don't think I can match the storms that I had back home to what we get here. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's when it rains, it rains. I mean, there's no wimpy little drizzles that often. I mean, when it comes down, it comes down. It's like it's ready to drown little people.
Well, I spent a little bit of time in Denver, Colorado. This was back in the early 70s. I was in the Air Force at the time, and they had sent me to what they call technical school there. And that was some of the craziest weather I've ever seen, because in Denver you're kind of surrounded by all these mountains, and it's a similar experience to in Florida, where we don't have the mountains, but the weather similarity is so close. I was there late May. Yeah, it was late May, and it snow flurried in late May. And I'll tell you that I was walking. I went to the post office on base to check my mail, and that's how we used to check mail back then, guys. We used to actually have to walk on our feet, go to a place called the post office.
No.
So anyway, I was in short sleeves. It was relatively cool. It was like 68 degrees when I started. It was probably a 3/4 mile walk one way, so it took about 15 minutes or so. And so I walked there. I got inside. I checked my mail. I remember getting a letter from my parents, so I sat down and was kind of reading the letter and kind of being homesick, wishing I was home. So I probably stayed maybe 10 minutes in there. So maybe another 30 minutes had transpired from the time I started my walk. As I walked outside and got ready to walk back to my barracks, I noticed it was kind of chilly, and the temperature had dropped a little bit. By the time I got back to my barracks, it was actually starting to snow flurry. I was freezing at that point. Now, the parallel between there and Florida is here it can be sunny, and 5 minutes later it looks like the end of the world. So with regard to thunderstorms and raining, so the parallel between the two, but the extremes are like what you're saying. We went from one extreme to the next.
Well, I could attest to that because I spent a little time in Florida back in 1987, and I know every afternoon you got a downpour like you wouldn't believe. It's like that one storm that would come in. It was quick. It was going to slap the hell out of you, and then it was going to leave. I mean, it happened every afternoon when I was there. So,
Ira, where are you at, Ira? I'm not sure where you're at.
I'm up here in Indiana, the Fort Wayne area.
And do you have crazy stuff like we have?
Oh, it's nuts here. What we have, we're in the town that I'm in. Actually, we kind of have a little bit of an advantage, but at the same time, it makes a horror show for everybody that's around us. Our town is called the Summit City. We are actually like on the top of a big plateau that's up here in the northern Indiana area, and so when a big storm comes along, they're screaming and hollering, "Oh, it's going to be massive! It's going to be huge! We're going to get either tons of rain or tons of snow or whatever the case may be." But here in our town, like we live just east of it, like literally it's kind of like a suburb town of Fort Wayne. We have this plateau. Whenever a storm comes along, it hits that plateau, and it's just like a big rock being right in the middle of like a creek or a river or something. And if you watch what happens around that rock, you'll see that the water comes up to that rock, and it hits that rock, and it goes around it, and all around it, it gets like really turbulent. But like the area that's right after the rock, it's pretty calm, right? And then the area that's like after that section just gets like massive amounts of turbulence and horror show, right? Well, that's exactly what happens with the storms here. They come to our town, they hit that plateau, they kind of skirt around us. We'll get like rain or snow or whatever, but not like horrific kind of stuff. But those areas either north or south of us and to the east of us, they just get whacked hardcore because our town basically did nothing but churn it up like crazy.
Well, I'll tell you, here the same thing in Columbia. It's like that a lot during the summer. We'll see massive storms that just rip through Georgia and Alabama, and they're kicking butt, right? And then they get to us, And we're like, here it comes. And then it gets to Columbia and it splits apart, goes around us, and then it reconnects and causes havoc on the other side. It's,
Yeah.
but
If we get hit bad, it was a bad storm, and everybody else around us is in massive pain. That's really what it comes down to.
well, yeah, and at this point, we get flood warnings all the time, flood, not warnings, but alerts, flood alerts, possible flash flooding, da-da-da, but it never happens, maybe in one or two streets. At this time, and this is where people make their mistake, they say, it never happens. Well, be thankful that it never happens, but, also be ready because it can happen, and they're not telling, when they use the word historic, all right,
It's something to pay attention to.
I think I
definitely.
better pay attention to that. Yeah.
One thing that we have a lot of issues with flooding here in our town. I'll explain this a little bit. That's really where our big problem is. We are basically right at the confluence of three major rivers that go all the way through Indiana, all the way up from basically the Great Lakes area up in Michigan, all the way down to here. There's three rivers that pass right through our town. And all three rivers, basically, they converge right in our downtown area. And up until basically about 10 years ago, every time that we would get like heavy rains or heavy snows in the Indiana area, we would get all of the water rush from all of that. So we would flood out like crazy all the time. I remember we had a really major, like the big one that hit us was back in 1987. And we actually got let out of school for about 2 weeks to go sandbag everybody, all around the whole town. Nobody basically really even worked or went to school or anything along those lines because everybody was basically being required by emergency mandate to come sandbag to save the town. Our whole town basically was under about 15 feet of water, and it was just a mess all the way around. It took about 6 months for all that water to finally get at least somewhat cleared out. Now, since then, they've basically kind of done things to help alleviate the problem, but we still get a lot of issues with major flooding here. In fact, I had a car. If anybody out there is looking for a great car that can survive hell and back, go for a Volkswagen Rabbit. I had a 1987 Volkswagen Rabbit that got flooded out 3 times. It went through 3 fires, literally inundated completely in water. I'd clean the thing out, clean all the oil pan and all that kind of stuff out, and that sucker would just go right up and start running again. So, but anyways, yeah, we've had a lot of major issues as far as any kind of water stuff is concerned. That's our big problem here, more than anything else.
Well, it's going to be a lot of people's problems, even in places where, look, just because you never get tornadoes now, yeah, you can get tornadoes because our weather has changed.
Our weather patterns have changed so badly.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, you brought up Volkswagen. I imagine you've heard that Volkswagen's kind of under the gun.
Yeah, I have.
They have reintroduced what I call the hippie wagon, their van that was very popular during my day when I was a teenager, that many of my friends would purchase that van and, paint flowers and stuff. And it was a hippie van. Would lay down a mattress in the back and everybody just lay out. And when you go to the beach, you open both doors and you just laid out, So anyway, they're bringing that back, or they're trying to introduce it, or they already have introduced it. I'm not sure. The article wasn't clear. But they seem to be catching a lot of grief because they're bringing it back as an electric vehicle. And they're bringing it back not only as an electric vehicle, but the infrastructure that would be required to allow this to be successful. And they are catching a lot of flack over it right now from the automakers as well as some of the governments, particularly our government. You're probably aware of this. They have a car over there. I don't remember the particular model, but it gets about 84 miles to the gallon. I do recall, I think it's a 3-cylinder diesel engine, and it gets about 84 miles to the gallon in the city. That car is not permitted to be shipped to the United States.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely wrong.
Hey, listen, I think it's Kentucky. There is a garage right now that holds a Ford pickup truck that can go from New York to California on one tank of gas and still be all right to drive around while you're there. A guy came, he told us all about it one night on the show. It's the same guy who was in cahoots with the guy with the vehicle that ran on water. I mean, so this is real stuff.
Stanley Meyer.
Oh yeah, they're not going to let you have this technology. Of course, we don't need to be fighting anybody for gasoline. It's all that's the illusion. There it is, part of it.
Yes, that was Stanley Myers who you talking about.
Yeah.
Stanley was the one who came up with a water-powered dune buggy. You can see that online. Just YouTube, do a search on YouTube for Stanley Meyer, and you'll see how a man who is really a patriot, who's a true American, of course he's going to make money at it, there's no question about it, but one of the main reasons he did what he did is at the time that all that occurred, there was this thing called the oil embargo. Most people are listening are probably too young to remember this, but there was a time when this country was brought to its knees because Saudi Arabia had decided to embargo the United States with their oil, and as a result, people were waiting hours for gasoline in line, and it got so bad that we began gas rationing. You're limited to 5 gallons of gas. Imagine going to the gas station today, and they say, well, sorry, you can only buy 5 How long is that going to last you?
Well, I work, my studio's right, connected to my home, so I'm good. I don't have, thankfully for me, it wouldn't hurt so bad. But for a lot of people, it would.
It would be devastating.
Yeah, I remember reading about that happening and seeing some of the pictures and video footage of the massive lines of people. I mean, it would be like hundreds of cars waiting to go into one gas station, and just
it was horrible. I was fortunate because for part of it, I was still in the Air Force, and the Air Force is kind of a city of its own, on its own. We had our own gas stations. We had our own car, places you could take your car and have it fixed. Civilian cars, not military. These were military people working on civilian cars. We had military working on military vehicles, and that was a whole different thing. We had garages on base that you could take your car to, and they would work on it for you. And along with that, they had gas stations out front. You just go out there and pump your own gas. So I avoided quite a bit of it. But there were times when I got caught up in it, and I want to tell you it was quite frustrating, especially when it got to the point where they were only allowing us 5 gallons of gas. So it was back then, basically that would last somebody like me maybe 2 or 3 days if I was lucky. 2 or 3, and then you have to go through this process again, which is very frustrating.
That was during the era that you were lucky if you got like 9 to 10 gallons of gas out of a gallon. So
yeah, because that was the area where it all spiked, and
miles to the gallon.
Oh yeah, everything had a 350 4-barrel.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. I grew up with a 1977 Ford LTD. That's a land yacht, So, and then went right into a 1979 Formula Firebird too. So
wow.
You hit the gas on that, and you can literally see your gasket go down.
Oh, yeah. So. Yeah, the Firebirds were known for their Holley 4-barrels.
Yeah,
which were a 4-barrel carburetor, which was like literally a vacuum cleaner on your gas tank.
I loved it, but I got rid of it when they started raising the gas prices.
Power.
Yeah, well, guys,
yes.
This shooting. How about we touch on that for a moment? What say you guys on it so far? So I'm starting to see some things are starting to come out already.
Oh yeah. There's quite a bit already that I've looked into with it, and I'll tell you what, it's definitely got my my feelers up in a big way. I mean, first off, let me just make a comment here, because you mentioned the Vomit's speech that he gave after.
Yeah, the speech I didn't hear, but I guarantee that he wants the guns.
It was a 12-minute speech, just to get this out there, because this is important for people to understand with this 12-minute speech that he gave. He mentioned himself. He referred to himself 28 times in that 12-minute speech. That's 3 times a minute he referred to himself. This guy is a narcissist to the nth degree. Okay, so take a tragedy, and he's going with the whole Rahm Emanuel's training manual: never let a good crisis go to waste. Immediately latching right onto it and coming out with a 12-minute speech referring to himself 28 times. I thought that was just absolutely crazy.
Look,
but anyways, so
I've said this back in 2008, and I've said it all through, and I mean it, and I'd say it right to his face if they'd have let me. Okay, he is a Muslim extremist terrorist. He don't like the United States. He never liked the United States. He's not going to be happy until we're equivalent to a third world country. And so whether he's a puppet or not, he loves wiping his feet on us. And that's what he's doing. And I just can't believe that we've sat back and allowed this, but
Michael, you racist, you. Man, shame on you.
Well, then I'm a racist. Good for me.
You're not an American.
Speaking about the shooting, there's already been a video released where the audio in that video says, it's one of the kids there at the on scene was talking to his mom, from what I understand, and told his mom he thought it was a drill.
Well, last week they had a drill.
Exactly.
Well, yeah.
It was the exact same drill.
Well, in the school, this kid said that he didn't hear anything going on. Yeah, and
there was a couple of girls that said that.
Yeah.
Right? I saw a couple of girls that said, well, we didn't think there was anything going on. But this was supposedly somebody in the middle of it all who said that, quote, I thought it was a drill. He wasn't even, slightly upset.
I played it in the beginning of the show. I'll play it again here. Where is it? Hold on. So let me.
Yeah. Well, while you do that, let me mention this as well. The comments that I would like to do in response to that video. Okay, first one. She's a county commissioner. She's got a son that's there at the college, and the first thing that she does is she starts contacting people to find out if this shooting incident is taking place. Why did she not call her son the first thing? If I'm a mother, the first thing I'm going to be doing, I heard there was a shooting at the college. Boom, I'm on that phone trying to call my kid.
Well, right. But what I find interesting is that she did get on the phone with her son, she says, and he says he didn't hear anything, and that he thought it was a drill.
Cowering behind a desk at that moment in time.
Well,
listen how calm she was through that whole thing, right?
Yeah. Well, exactly. It stinks to high heaven. So, but they're telling us right there. He thought it was a drill. He didn't hear nothing. In other words, you dumb, what's ha ha ha.
Michael, to me, what is most disturbing about all of this is that, let's say what we are discussing here is really true, which I believe it is. But
it is.
Just for the sake of argument, let's just say it is really happening. What really disturbs me is, what have they done to these people to convince them to carry on the charade?
Yeah, no kidding, Rascal. There is the golden question. I'm serious. How do they get so? Because this is what makes people like you and I look really nuts when we even entertain this kind of stuff, is because the first thing that a naysayer will say is, oh yeah, they got hundreds of people to agree to it, and that's what you hear. And it's really hard to argue with that. I mean, but the truth is, they are getting these people.
Is it simply, to me, I have a difficult time understanding that it would simply be money, that it's got to be more. Somehow they're able to get these people to say these things and believe these things.
Well, and I think
some of them, some of them are clearly actors. There's no question. But they can't, and as a matter of fact, I've already heard that some of the same actors have been used again in this particular
yes, indeed.
Can they be finding people who are as passionate about removing the guns and having that kind of control?
I think to be honest with you, that's a big part of it right there.
Yeah, who are as passionate as us about freedom, and that they not only tell these people, well, look, if you go along with this perfect plan, we could we'll get what you want, plus we'll take care of you.
Being patriotic. I could see for some people just understand, this may seem wrong, but you're being patriotic. This is for the best of the country.
Yeah, and by the way, if later on you decide to talk, we know where your kids go to school. We'd hate for that to be the next place, So that's probably what happens.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I know that the money thing, that is a part of it as well. But, to be honest with you, in a lot of this stuff that goes on, with the amount of people that are out there that are able to do this whole crisis actor thing and so on and so forth, how many of these people are actually, quote unquote, real people? You see what I mean? The people that come out and they talk and all that kind of stuff, how many of these people are actually real people, or are they embedded in place? You see what I mean? I also know that there are very easy ways, and seriously very easy ways, and I'm probably going to be, told that I'm putting on my tinfoil hat at this point in time, but there really are very easy ways to mind control people.
Well, there is, and I think they could do it right through actual pills. I think that you could take.
That's part of it.
Honestly, and people thought that the light bulb spying on you was a big joke too. Well, it turned out that it was real. So, it's just people, you got to pay attention. But yeah, I think that there is a form of mind control. Look, if there's people really carrying out this stuff, okay, because look, it could be a false flag and people could really be being sacrificed. That's exactly
what I keep saying all along, is that even though we might say that it's a false flag, does not necessitate that people did not die. Okay, right. They are more than happy to take out anybody that they want to take out. They have zero issue with doing that kind of thing if it fulfills their agenda.
Well, that's what 9/11. That's what part of
precisely
9/11
Riscala.
One of the reasons.
Precisely, Riscala. So just because people are dead does not mean that it was not a false flag. When it comes to this guy, the Chris Mercer, who is the one that allegedly did all of this stuff, a couple of things that I've run across with this already is that he had for the past, I don't know, I think it was about 2 years from what I could gather, been doing a blog on a website. And on his website, he actually did quite a bit of commentating on a lot of the different activities that have been happening lately, up to and including a lot of these mass shooting incidents that have been going on. And in his blog, what he was commenting was they were doing the wrong thing. They should not have done this. They were wrong. The police did the right thing by taking them out, and so on and so forth. Even up to and including this latest one that happened over in Virginia, that the reporters that got quote unquote killed over there.
Well, here's what's funny too is this happens, right? And at the same time, you've got Russia, who's bombing whoever over in Syria. You've got the Pope, who's having secret meetings with gay couples and women who have jobs that call for him to do certain things and they don't do it. And he's having these secret meetings, and it's like all our attention's being taken away and now being put on this. So I'm trying to look over this. I'm like that short quarterback. I'm like 5'8", trying to jump up and look over the line so I can see who to throw the ball to.
Yeah. Every time one of these incidents happen, I always started investigating what stories are we not seeing, because all of the 24 news cycle is getting covered with this, So what is not being talked about? Well, what's not being talked about, for instance, is the Chinese president coming over here for a visit and going and meeting with the heads of Microsoft and Boeing.
Oh, and they're spending
Facebook and Amazon.
They're spending mega bucks too. I was just reading about that, spending mega bucks in Los Angeles right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
They're saying, so Mr. Obama, I kind of like what California have to offer. How about you give us a California?
It does it now. You don't need it no more.
Oh, yeah. And while you're at it, open borders.
Yeah, right.
We own you now.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So
that's what I see. I always kind of on my show, I do what you missed while these type of events are going on. I always do that kind of a show after these things happen, because there's just so much that does not end up getting covered.
Well, guys, we got a call here. We've got 915 area code. You are on Late Night in the Midlands.
Hey, Michael, this is Jay Phantom on the chat room.
Hey,
I had a few topics that we haven't talked about yet. We have a few things that we have already talked about time and time again. We just passed over Blood Moon on the 28th. That was the fourth one of the year. There was a lot of hype about that. There was a lot of hype up about tunnels in the ground. There was a lot of hype up about cities underground. What happened? What happened to 2012? What happened to 2015? What happened to all those people? What can they be doing? those can be the people who can be the actors. I mean, I'm not trying to say anything. I'm not the person with the evidence, but there's a lot of people who have gone missing and nobody can prove anything.
Every year, 300,000 children go missing and are trafficked into the human traffic industry. 1.2 million people total every year disappear into the human trafficking industry. They're just gone. They're just gone and sold into slavery or sold into the sex trade and so on and so forth. And those people, when it comes to what we're talking about here, that's exactly what I was referring to earlier. How many of these people are quote unquote real people? Because what it comes down to is that a lot of these people that are involved in all of this stuff very well could be people that came out of the system, out of this human trafficking system. When you're raised up, for instance, in that kind of a system or in that kind of an environment, you are going to be absolutely beholden to whoever it is that took control over you. When you are taken as a child, for instance, especially as a child, they can do this as an adult too, but they especially do this with children. They will literally erase the personality off of the person that you once were and embed a brand new personality upon you, whatever personality it is that they want you to have. This is a very well-known thing. It's done through both electroshock, it's done through drugs, it's done through a lot of different methodologies, but in the end, it's actually not that hard to completely wipe the person that you are away from your existence and replace you with a brand new person in this same body. So in that kind of a case, with that kind of thing in mind, we know that they can do this. So why wouldn't they use a big batch of people that they've been prepping for the past 20 or 30 years to do these exact kind of events that we're seeing happening today? And this is basically just the culmination of them with their long-term agenda that we know that they do because they think generationally, not year to year like we do, for instance. They think generationally, what can we do right now that's going to impact the generation that's coming up? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So between all of that,
Ira.
between all of that, I think that's exactly what we're seeing happening.
Well, yeah, it is. It's a conditioning of the next generation. It most certainly is, and a lot of that's starting in the schools. We could get into that. I mean, but yeah, these missing people, you got to wonder. Even a lot of these people. That's why I'm cautious. A lot of these people who come out and claim to be. Some of them claim to be whistleblowers. Some really are. Others are put out there. I ask questions, and I know people like to just cling to some and ride them no matter where they go. And me, I gotta ask questions. There was a guy who come out and claimed he worked with the Illuminati, that he was part of the Illuminati, and I was the only one asking him, well then how the hell are you still alive telling us this unless you're still part of it? I mean, come on, they didn't get as far as they got because they let people go and give their secrets. Right? I don't know. It's the way I think.
Absolutely. Now, in my belief, I have a very different belief from the masses, and in my belief, there is without a doubt a system that is in place to condition not only the kids but us as adults. It's been going on since my birth, since 1987. You guys are talking about many events that happened in 1987. There was many events that happened back then, as far as the international airlines. And people would have terrorist events that the United States didn't know about. Nowadays, that stuff, it doesn't happen at all. And without doubt, there's a system in place to try to corrupt and condition the mind to want to be paranoid and have fear of the government taking over, and the government then taking your guns and just running into your house, and then how do you defend your family? Well, try to defend yourself through your own mind and through teachings, in my opinion. I forgot.
Well, I would agree with that. I mean, and that's where it does start. But I guess, for me, it's these people who have they're thinking that, well, if we take away the guns, well, that'll bring down crime. Well, that's so wrong, because if you look at these gun-free zones, first off, is where all these shootings always happen. Second off, you look at experimental cities such as Chicago and how the gun laws are stricter than hell there. And look, they've got more murders orders than anybody. And so you look at, so these people who want the guns taken away, they're fools because it's the guns that have kept them free, and they don't understand that. And it's really sad. Like, I won't even argue with people no more when they say, oh, well, look, okay, take the guns away, but if I really want you dead, I could still stab you, run you over. I could throw a rock at your head. There's all kinds of things I could do.
That's my favorite. I like to tell people, Cain killed Abel with a rock, so let's just ban all the rocks.
Well, exactly. I mean, you know, they always call out, oh, well, these mass shooting incidents, we have to get rid of the guns to get them to stop. But there have been just as many mass stabbing incidents where multiple dozens of people are killed by one person wielding a knife.
Hey, what a lot of people don't know is that when Sandy Hook went down, on the other side of the globe in China, there was also another school brutality going down.
Yeah. 32 kids killed by a knife.
Well, yeah, there was plenty of them killed and many of them injured, but the guy ran into the school, I think it was an elementary school, and ran in, just started stabbing everybody. I mean, so what do? Hey, everybody, you're going to start cutting your knife with, a laser now? We got a laser knife we could use?
No, we have lasers that can kill people. Hey, I have a question.
Shoot.
I'm wondering if anybody knows, has there been any information regarding this guy and being on any kind of an antidepressant?
The reports that I've seen said that, yes, he was on antidepressants, but he was recently put on them from what I've been able to gather. Basically within the past couple of months, he was put onto them. So
I see that as a common thread between each one of these.
It absolutely is. That's what I was referring to earlier with the way that the system works. You know, that whole mind control system works. They do it through electroshock. They do it through drugs, and it's usually a combination of the two. The drugs, these antipsychotic drugs, these antidepressive drugs, especially the SSRIs, they are very, very quick to change a person's personality. That's what I was referring to earlier when I was speaking about the blogs that this guy posted. These blogs that he posted, he was talking about the fact that these mass shooters were doing the wrong thing. They were absolutely wrong for doing this. They should have done things in a different way to try to enact change. So this same guy who was calling out these others for being wrong for doing this, then 2 months later does the exact same thing? No, something is going on here that is absolutely fishy. Something happened personality-wise to this guy that changed
it. I think you hit it. Didn't you say he'd only been on the antidepressants for a short period?
Just a couple of months, yeah.
Well, you got to look at you got to go back and look at the last prescription that was given to him, and that's probably where you're going to find the root of this evil. If it truly happened, if he's not just another actor taking a paycheck, and if it's real, then that's probably what it is, because you'll notice that all these nutcases that come out, they're all on this medications. And I have a story, which after the break I'll share, about my own mind infragment on medication and what it did to me. I mean, this stuff really, truly can take over your mind. Yeah. It can control you.
Yeah. It absolutely can.
I've got about 20 years ago, I was put on Prozac, and I was on it for about 6 months. I was going through a very difficult time in my life, and the doctor felt that this was, the best solution for me. And in my ignorance, I took that stuff. But like I said, for about 6 months, I think it was probably a little over 5, I abruptly stopped one day, and I remember the doctor being very upset with me and telling me, "You just can't stop taking that." And I said, I'm not me anymore. I remember very vividly saying, "I'm not me anymore. This stuff is not helping me. It's making me somebody else, and that's not what I want." I stopped, and I stopped seeing that doctor at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have just to throw this out here as well. To those that might be wondering, well, okay, how are they able, if this guy, for instance, was somebody that was influenced by some agency or agent of an agency to do this incident, which is something that I've posited, since this incident occurred, is I know somebody personally, okay, just as an example, I know somebody personally who has told me multiple times, if he was ever told that he was terminal for one reason or another, he'd take himself out. But he has a list of people that he would go and take with him. Now, there are a lot of people that are out there that are exactly the same way.
Wait, this guy?
I know this guy. Yeah.
You might want to send him somewhere.
I keep him near and dear to my heart.
Well, I hope you're not on the backside of that list. You better
That's
look.
exactly why. Anyways, no, but I know a few people that are, along that kind of lines of thinking that, hey, if something was going to happen to me, I'm going to go out in a blaze of glory, basically, and make it worthwhile.
Well,
so that might be something that's going on with these kind of mass shooter incidents as well, especially these ones that we have been able to discern have been the false flag kind of events. It may be that they're finding people that are of that kind of suicidal bent or something along those lines and just saying, hey, if you're going to do it, do it. But while you do it, why don't you go out in a blaze of glory? Make yourself remembered. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I actually do. We got a break coming up here in a moment, so I want to give our caller, Jay, here, opportunity. Anything else that you want to get out, by all means, go right ahead.
I was trying to say earlier about the conditioning of the human mind right now. In the planet, they try to condition the mind, and they have released it in formats of films and in books. We all know this. And in video games, whatever is your niche, they're going to give it to you. Whatever is adapted to your frequency is going to be what you're going to like, and it's going to be drawing you to it to give your spirit to the system. Now, when it comes to conditioning, now they've shown movies like how with Eraser. Eraser was a movie that a girl knew too much information about a weapon that could see through walls and snipe an individual. Back in that day, that was too much technology. So they had to spoon feed the public into believing that, this is, somebody has a lot of money out there and can just pay for this. And then the military can adapt on to that, when it was completely the other way around. They have series like Fallout, where they have, people stuffed into these underground bunkers, and they're all different from one another. They're all completely adapted to different elements. They're all have different air filtration systems. They all have different frequencies emitted through their overhead projected systems, and their lightings are all different to manipulate the mind of the person inside, and to raise and to alter every single one of these different hives, essentially, to produce whatever they could, and whatever happened inside would come out of the ground, or maybe implode, or however would happen. But we've been spoon-fed for so many decades now that it's plainly obvious in front of us, but we still are shocked by it. We still see things like this, and we question why and how are there people there? Are they getting paid? Do they get paid minimum wage? Do they get a 401k? Do they have insurance? Can I do this? I need a job. Everybody needs a job. I heard on the show a couple of days ago about how it was difficult to get a job. Everybody needs a job. But these people out here that are no name come from absolutely nowhere and can sacrifice their life or throw a blood costume on their face for a video camera to be shoved into the faces of little children behind a TV. And that's what it is as far as the youngsters getting conditioned from face-to-face interactions with the TV. And then they go on from that TV show to the car ride to the school to maybe or maybe not have this incident happen to their knowledge, or maybe not to their knowledge. You never know.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you a great example as far as like what you're kind of discussing there is during the showing or the broadcast on network television of the movie Fast and Furious. There was a huge car wreck scene that ended up happening. They immediately went to a commercial, and the next commercial that was played, the commercial that played right after this car crash ended up happening, was a commercial for the new OnStar system with the emergency road assist. And what they found was that the sales of that OnStar system skyrocketed because it was played immediately after people saw a car crash happen. So when you watch TV, or if you watch TV, I highly recommend you don't. But if you watch TV, and you start paying attention to how do these breadcrumbs sit? Where are they leading? You'll actually see that all of this crap is completely scripted. They go from event to event to event, and you watch the commercials, and suddenly you'll see a commercial of, there's been this mass shooting that happened, and we have to protect ourselves, and on and on and on. And then the next commercial will be something like ADT security systems to come and protect your house.
Well, and here's the thing too. See, when I was a kid, we had violent cartoons. We had violent. I remember we sat down. I watched Faces of Death with my parents when I was a kid, for crying out loud. All right, and these are the things we had. And for some reason, it didn't corrupt our minds as children. It really didn't. I mean, I don't think I'm that bad of a guy, right? So I'm wondering what's different about the youth nowadays that they're able to get into their minds like this with things like video games. I mean, we knew the stuff that we did seen on TV or on a video game. We knew that it was, make believe. And these kids nowadays, it's almost like, the life is a video game for them. I mean, the whole
it's because of the way that they're basically tied with their technology at this point. Like when we were growing up, for instance, we grew up. Yes, we had our video games and we had the TV and the movies and the shows and all that kind of stuff. But we also had the outside where we could go outside and play and get together with our friends and do all that kind of stuff. But nowadays, they only go and interact with other people either online through video games or through play dates that their parents assign them to. And that's literally the only time that they get outside to do anything, and it's always supervised and on and on and on. They have become so ingrained and inbred to be feeding off of the teat of the state. And
they're also starting earlier.
Yes, exactly. From the time that they are born, they're shoving this stuff down their throats.
Well, exactly, and that's my point is that it's not so much that the TV programming and all that stuff's changed. What's changed is the brains have been rewired. These kids have been, artificial intelligence has rewired their brains. And some kids, some growing up, whatever, they use it as positive. And I mean, there's great things come out of it. But then there's them others who all it takes is the wrong pharmaceutical to mix with what's already happened technically in their brain. And I think that, I don't know, they get under some kind of control or they just lose it. But you always find that big pharma is somewhere around involved when it comes down to it. I don't like to blame video games and television, even though I think they contribute, because I don't think the youth nowadays, I don't think that their minds, I don't know, something's different. Maybe it's the family structure, because that, let's trace it back. I mean, you go to the family structure, it's not what it used to be. So then maybe that's what's changed. I think it's like a chain reaction. It's all, you go down the line. Because of that, the video games affect their mind, and because of that, the pharmaceuticals, and because of that, and it's like it just never ends.
Between the pharmaceuticals and the schooling, the public school system, both cause them to be blank slates. And when you have a blank slate, you can overwrite anything that you want onto that person. And by the way, I don't bash video games either. I am a huge video gamer. In fact, I am a big fan of the Fallout series, and I'm playing one of them as we right before we came onto the show here. So, I'm a huge fan of the Fallouts. I'm a huge fan of all video games. Really, I don't ever blame the video games. There's been enough studies that have come out to show that they don't have that kind of an impact. It's got to be something else that's going on with it. But I think that there is a contributory factor to it, along with the television and so on and so forth. I think that what we're seeing is that there are more kids, more of a percentage of kids at this point in time are susceptible to that easy mind control kind of stuff, as opposed to how it was 20 or 30 years ago. I think that's where it really comes down to.
Because it's earlier, because they're being introduced earlier.
Well, I absolutely agree.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with it, but I think also a family structure certainly has to do with it as well. I mean, you got kids, they pretty much come home and do what they want, a lot of them. I mean, right? I mean, when I came home, the first question I got is, you got any homework? All right, get it done. how was your day? Not no more. It's, it's like a drag if mom or dad talk to you.
I know a lot of kids who literally own their parents, and that's really what it comes down to. And it's unfortunate, but that's really how it is.
It is, but it is. So I think there's a lot of factors. I do. I think that, if you given me the video games they have now when I was a kid, I wouldn't have hurt nobody. It wouldn't have changed the way I thought. And I think that now it's a lot different. These kids they're learning things, there's just no parenting going on. Basically,
yeah, absolutely.
It's horrible. But hey, Jay, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Guys, hang on. I'm going to take this last break. I want you to, not necessarily tonight, but on any night, we want to hear from you. Don't be afraid to call in. We'll talk about whatever you want. But guys, we're back, and we've got about another 15 minutes, I guess. So Ruscala, I guess tomorrow night, what have you got coming up?
Tomorrow I'm going to be talking about this shooting again that just happened.
Well, yeah, it is again, isn't it? It's like it never stops happening.
Because I think I don't have any proof yet. I don't have anything, definitive, but like the recording that you played earlier where there somebody is on site saying, I think this is a drill. I see no pictures of any blood anywhere where they're very quick to point that out if ISIS is cutting somebody's head off. They'll take you right up to that point. I don't see a lack of emotion from those who they have spoken with, a lack of emotion. I mean, that's the best way I can put it. And to address the situation of how are we going to allow this to continue, which is one of the basic questions I've asked for, since the beginning. Well, anything that's going on, whether people want to come to grips with it or not, the truth of the matter is whatever is happening around us is happening because we are permitting it. And we need to get to the point of understanding that so that we stop permitting this insanity. This is what we're going through.
And we have people who are such great organizers. They organize marches. They organize this. They organize that. That's basically, I guess, what we need, some organizers. Let's start organizing. Listen, I'm here to tell you about it. I'm here to scream and shout at you about what's going on. I'm here to expand your mind. I'm here to I'm doing what I can do, and I'm doing it right here. And so now those who are great at organizing, we need you to come forward, start organizing. This is what we need. We need people who are non-corruptive, people who cannot be bought, like myself. And I don't expect you to believe that, but I know me, and I know that there's, I don't take a paycheck. Nobody owns me. So, this is what we need. We need people to come forward that can be trusted. I don't want to start name calling. God, I want to name call, but I'm not going to do it. People love when I do it because then they take these clips and they send them to these people and say, look what Ferris said about you. But you know who I'm talking about. Some of these shows out there that, it's more about the dollar sign and their trips to the pyramids on your dime than anything else. We don't need people like that. We need real organizers. Where are you? Organize. Where's these remember we heard about the white hats that were coming? The Long Ranger was coming, man. He had his white hat. They were coming. Where are they? What happened?
They shot the horse out from underneath him.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think that ship sank.
Listen, I found something I wanted to read to you guys during the break there, and I ran across this. I have not looked real deeply into this yet, but it's something that I ran across that I wanted to report to people just because I think this is some important information to get out. This is an article from the European Union Times, which is a pretty big website and newspaper over in the EU. This is from them, and I want to read a couple of paragraphs here for you guys because I think this goes right into what we've been discussing here tonight. I'm going to do my best to read this because you guys know I'm blind and this is a white background on this stupid page. So
we forgive you, Ira. You know
I'm
what?
gonna bash through it as best as I can.
Hey, you get the Nobel Peace Prize for even giving it a shot. So I appreciate it.
Okay, well, it says this. The Federal Security Services is reporting today that an American Islamist terrorist suspect who yesterday committed an act of mass murder in the state of Oregon, in the United States, had been included in the list of 87,000 suspected Islamic terrorists that the CIA and the International Criminal Police Organization, or Interpol, refused last month to accept from the Federation due to its not being politically viable in the present atmosphere. According to the report, the Islamic terrorist who committed this act of terror, Chris Harper Mercer, who had previously been identified by electronic intelligence specialists within the Federal Intelligence Service as being an Islamic State adherent after he had attempted to gain passage to Syria via Turkey during the first week of September 2015. So what they're doing basically is through the profile that he originally had on the internet, he was actually coming forward basically as being a supporter of ISIS and of the work that they're doing, but basically they have scrubbed that personality from the internet and they have replaced it with this conservative Republican guy who was all about gun grabbing and gun control and blah blah blah.
Well, this is what concerns me too, because when I flipped on the tube, I have.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. I'm going to look more into this information here that was in this article, and I'll make sure to talk about it on my show next week. But just something I ran across, and I thought I'd bring it out to people just to know, hey, there might be things that are going on with this that you guys don't even realize. This guy might have just been an Islamic ISIS supporter kind of thing, or as we know, with the way that organization was faked out to begin with, that got its start. This very well could be another one of those cogs in the wheel that's trying to force that issue going.
Sorry about that. I kind of got sidewounded a minute ago because I was the governor come on again, and I had to see what the heck she was talking about. I got to keep a tab on it. So I kind of got sidetracked. But what I was trying to say is that these you watch this stuff on TV and you hear the guys say, come out, and they say, well, we're not going to mention his name, da, da, da. That tells me that they're trying to cross their T's and dot their I's now because they've been caught so many other times. They give out these names. You check on them and it turns out that the guy died in 1920 or something. And
yeah. Exactly.
But that's what I was trying to say. Sorry, I was distracted by the mind control
sheriff,
box.
The sheriff that's involved in this whole situation just a couple of months ago got lambasted because he put out an article in the paper that was an anti-gun control article. So now this ends up happening in his town too. I just all kinds of strangeness with it all.
There is all kinds of strangeness, and this is why I watch some of these shows, man, and they got these TVs on. They're watching the news the whole time they're broadcasting, and I don't know how they do it. I mean, I flicked it on, it's muted, and I'm watching it to make sure, if we gotta, prepare for anything, prepare for it. But and it's just so distracting. I don't know how people do it.
I keep mine off.
I see it as programming. I watched for the first time. I watched almost a full hour of what I would refer to as mainstream television, one of the alphabet channels. I don't remember which particular one it was in some show.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
I decided I'd watch it, and I had to turn it off. I couldn't deal with it anymore.
Yeah, well,
sometimes when my mom, she'll have on like Fox News or CNN or something like that on the TV out there in the living room, and I don't pay any attention to it. I'm just sitting here at my computer all the time. But once in a while, I'll go out there and I'll sit down next to her to talk to her, and they'll be talking about something there on the news, and I'm screaming at the screen, "What are you people talking about? You're idiots! What the hell? You're lie. It's just more aggravating for me to watch TV than not.
Well, yeah, you're right. Me too. And there's only a couple times I'll put it on. All right, I'll put it on like right now. I want to keep an eye on what's going on outside because I'm broadcasting. I can't keep opening the door and going and looking and stuff. So I watch to be sure. You know, if they say, "Hey, this is streets around you and they're flooded," well, then I got to get ready. But I'll watch it for that, and I'll watch it occasionally. I'll watch like something on the History Channel or something like that. You know, maybe a ghost story or something along those lines, which I enjoy. So, you know, but other than that, I don't watch these TV shows. The fake news, I'll catch about 10 minutes of it, and that's all I could stand because I want to just, like even Megyn Kelly, I want to just jump through the TV and drop kick these people. It's just, you know, they're so full of it. And they try to just pass these. You can see them reading. You know, their eyes are constantly reading. They're looking down. They're reading off their teleprompters. It's what, Master? What do you want me to tell the people today?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was, passing by, going to the bathroom, and Mom was watching something on TV. It was Inside Edition, and they were doing the announcement of what was coming up on the show. And, we're going to take a look into the apartment that Chris Mercer used to live in. What the hell is the point of that? What does that have to do with anything regarding any of this? Again, if you guys are getting your news from these news sources, you're getting them from the wrong spot. To me, the way that I look at it is the mainstream media, the mainstream news. They're good for like getting information that breaking stuff is happening, but as soon as they start opening up their mouths and opining on it in any way, it's time to turn it off because you're going to be lied to.
Well, yeah,
I agree.
I do too, but at the same time, I have to watch a little bit of it because I got to see what the hell they're saying, or how am I going to know?
Unfortunately, those of us that are in this business, we have to do it.
So I'll tell you what, everybody else, turn it off. All right, don't give them any ratings, and we'll take the torture for you. We'll take the damn bullet for you. We'll watch a little bit of it, and we'll report what they're lying about.
Exactly.
How about they turn it off and turn us on?
Well, yeah. Well, don't turn us on, but turn us on. Well, guys, we're just about out of time. It's been an interesting week already, and it's going to be an even better one next week. I'm looking forward to next week's shows. And by the way, I'm looking forward to my Buffalo Bills giving the New York Giants a good old-fashioned ass-whooping this weekend too. So see, that's on Sunday is mine. I like to kick back, so the schedule will be updated on Saturday, and I at least get 3 hours out of the week that are off. That's it. So that's what I do with it.
Sure.
Get my frustrations out. So anyways, guys, what do you want to finish with? Anything you want to get out there, Rascala or Ira?
I just want to say thank you, Michael. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you. Ira, thank you, buddy. I appreciate everything that you do for me behind the scenes. I've been many times when my proverbial radio pants were down, and you helped me get them back up real quick. So I appreciate that. Thank you, y'all.
You are very welcome.
And to the listeners, thank you for supporting the station, because without you, we wouldn't be here. God bless, and I'll be on tomorrow night.
All right. Thank you, Rascala. I appreciate it. And Ira, what would you like to finish with? Go right ahead. We're just about done here.
Everybody stick around. Don't forget that we are a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week new a radio station here. You guys can tune in and get the best information here without a doubt. We have shows on here that you guys would just be amazed by. Don't forget, it's not just this show. It's all the shows that make this network into what it is, and you guys have the opportunity to be exposed to some wonderful information here. Take advantage of it. And, really support this network. Make sure that you guys out there subscribe. Make sure that you donate and keep us on the air, please. We are here for you. So thank you. Thank you for having me on here tonight.
All right, Ira. Thank you so much. I appreciate you and all you do.